My breath stopped when the nurse shoved me. "Move aside, charity case," she said, tapping her clipboard against my chest. "VIP patients are waiting." I stood there in the clinic's waiting area, hands protectively cradling my 7-month pregnant belly, my entire body trembling, not from shame but from anger. "My name is Jace. I'm an Omega. And today was the first time I truly understood how low society ranks people like me." Nurse Sheila, her badge gleaming as brightly as her condescending attitude, stared at me like I was trash that needed disposing. "I have an appointment." My voice wavered, though I tried to steady myself. "Dr. Hale scheduled me for 2 o'clock. "Appointment?" Sheila laughed, and the other staff members smirked along with her. "Sweetie, Omega's like you don't get priority. Wait outside until we're finished with real patients." Real patients. Those words pierced my heart like arrows. Tears threatened to spill from my eyes, but I fought to hold them back. I pulled out my phone, wanting desperately to call Harrison, my husband, my alpha, my everything, but there was no signal. He didn't know I'd come here alone today because he'd offered to drive me this morning, but I'd insisted I could manage by myself. He was returning from a business trip this evening, and I hadn't wanted to worry him about a routine checkup. I'd been wrong to think I could handle this alone. "Please," I said, my hand moving to my belly. "My baby needs this checkup. I've been experiencing cramps and—" "Cramps?" Sheila cut me off dismissively. "Every Omega complains about something. You're all so dramatic." She pushed me aside and ushered a well-dressed alpha couple through the door ahead of me. I stood there in the corner of the waiting area, where everyone stared at me as if I'd come here to be humiliated. My hand rested on my stomach. "I'm sorry, baby," I whispered. "Your papa couldn't protect you today." My voice cracked, and I struggled to control the emotions threatening to overwhelm me. But then something inside me shifted. Was I really this weak? Was I only strong when Harrison stood beside me? If he were here, everything would be different. But he wasn't here, and I needed to fight this battle myself. I took a deep breath and felt my baby move inside me, as if offering strength and encouragement. My fingers tightened around my phone. I was about to send Harrison a message when the clinic's main doors opened. The man who entered changed the entire atmosphere. His presence seemed to drop the room's temperature by several degrees. This was no ordinary alpha. His aura radiated command and danger. Dressed in a long black coat, his sharp eyes scanned the room as if he'd already assessed everything that was wrong with this place. This wasn't Harrison. This was someone else entirely, and his gaze moved slowly across the room before landing directly on me. The vulnerable, humiliated Omega standing in the corner. His eyes narrowed, and he took one deliberate step forward. "Who?" he said in a slow, deadly voice that echoed throughout the entire clinic. Humiliated the Omega in the corner. The question hung in the air like a threat. Sheila's confident expression faltered. The other staff members exchanged nervous glances. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This stranger, this powerful alpha I'd never seen before, was standing up for me. But why? What could possibly motivate him to intervene on behalf of someone he didn't know? My mind raced with questions. Who was this man? Why did he care? And more importantly, what would happen when Harrison found out that another alpha had defended me in his absence? The stranger took another step toward Sheila, his expression hardening. "I don't like repeating myself," he said, his voice dropping even lower. "Answer the question." Sheila stammered. "Sir, I was just doing my job. We have protocols that involve treating pregnant Omegas like garbage," he interrupted. "Protocols that prioritize wealth and status over medical necessity." His tone was ice cold. "Let me make something very clear. If this Omega isn't seen by a doctor in the next 5 minutes, I will personally ensure this clinic loses every certification and funding source it has. Do I make myself understood?" The blood drained from Sheila's face. She nodded frantically and practically ran toward the back offices, presumably to fetch Dr. Hale. The stranger then turned to me, and for the first time, something soft appeared in his eyes. Perhaps concern or maybe recognition of shared pain. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice gentler now. I wanted to say yes, to appear strong and independent, but my voice betrayed me. "I just wanted a checkup," I admitted quietly. "For my baby." My hand instinctively moved to my belly again. That protective instinct every parent understands. He nodded slowly, then did something unexpected. He pulled out a chair and sat down near me. Not threateningly close, but definitely closer than a stranger should sit. My omega instincts went on high alert. This alpha didn't seem emotionally dangerous, but there was something possessive about him, and possessiveness without context felt like a warning sign I shouldn't ignore. "You shouldn't have to beg for basic medical care," he said, his jaw tight. "No one should." I studied his profile. Strong jawline, tired eyes that had clearly seen their share of hardship, and an expensive watch that marked him as someone powerful, someone in Harrison's league. This man was clearly influential, clearly accustomed to getting what he wanted. "Your husband," he said suddenly, still not looking directly at me. "Where is he?" My breath caught. How did he know I was married? I glanced down at my ring, the simple gold band Harrison had placed on my finger during our bonding ceremony. "He's away," I said carefully. "Business trip. He'll be back this evening." The stranger nodded, his expression unreadable. A powerful alpha leaves his pregnant omega alone for a medical appointment? Interesting. My defenses immediately went up. I didn't want anyone thinking poorly of Harrison. He didn't leave me alone by choice. I insisted on coming by myself. He wanted to be here, but I told him I could handle it. There was guilt in my voice because maybe Harrison had been right. Maybe I shouldn't have come alone. "Harrison," the stranger repeated as if tasting the name carefully. Then suddenly, his entire body language changed. "Harrison came." My body froze completely. My heart began racing. How did this complete stranger know my husband's full name? "You know him?" I whispered, suspicion and fear mixing in my voice. The stranger gave me a slow smile. But it wasn't warm. It was calculated, measured, almost predatory. "Everyone knows Harrison Kane," he said. "The alpha who controls half this city's industries. The one who destroys competitors without mercy. The one who builds empires but keeps his personal life completely hidden." He paused, looking directly into my eyes. "I just didn't know he had an omega." "He's kept you very well hidden indeed." My heart pounded. Something was wrong. This wasn't coincidence. This stranger hadn't randomly shown up at this clinic today. Just then, Dr. Hale burst through the doors, looking panicked and apologetic. "Mr. Jace, I'm so terribly sorry. Nurse Sheila has been suspended immediately. Please, come inside right away. Your baby's health is our absolute priority." She was practically begging, clearly terrified by whatever threat the stranger had made. As I started to stand, the stranger gently grasped my wrist. His touch sent an unexpected current through my skin. "Be careful," he said in a soft but firm voice. "You're carrying something precious. Don't ever let anyone make you forget that you and your baby deserve respect." I looked into his eyes and realized something unsettling. This alpha wasn't just a stranger. He had some connection to Harrison, and that connection didn't feel friendly at all. I couldn't move from where I stood. The alpha, whose name was apparently Cade, based on the receptionist's nervous greeting, now positioned himself directly in front of Sheila, and his dominating aura had silenced the entire clinic. But confusion clouded my thoughts. This man was a complete stranger to me. Why was he fighting my battle? I'd never laid eyes on him before today, and my mind spun with questions about his true motivation. "I asked a question," Cade repeated, his voice carrying that dangerous calm that precedes a storm. "Who showed disrespect to this omega?" Sheila's face had gone pale. "Sir, I was simply doing my job." "Your job," Cade cut her off sharply, "is to treat patients with dignity, not segregate them based on their designation." He glanced toward me and I saw something soften in his expression. Concern, perhaps even recognition of shared suffering. "Are you all right?" I wanted to say yes, to demonstrate strength, but my voice cracked. "I only wanted a checkup for my baby." My hand moved automatically to my belly, protective instincts taking over. Cade gave Sheila a fierce glare. "Fetch Dr. Hale immediately. If this omega waits even one additional minute, I will personally ensure this clinic loses both its license and all funding permanently." His threat carried such weight that Sheila's complexion turned completely white. She fled, nearly stumbling in her haste. I sat there processing what had just happened. Who was this Cade? And why had he helped me? I'd never encountered him before. Yet he was acting as though my protection was his responsibility. Something wasn't clicking in my mind. "Thank you," I said with a slight smile, remaining cautious. "But you really didn't need to." "Yes, I did," Cade stated firmly, adjusting his coat. Nobody deserves what you just experienced. He pulled out a chair and sat very close to me, not in a threatening way but definitely closer than appropriate for strangers. My omega instincts went on alert. This alpha didn't seem emotionally dangerous, but he definitely projected possessiveness. And possessiveness without proper context raised red flags I couldn't ignore. For several seconds we sat in silence. I observed his profile. That strong jawline, those weary eyes, the expensive timepiece that marked him as belonging to Harrison's world of powerful alphas. This man clearly wielded significant influence. Your husband, Cade said abruptly without looking at me, his gaze distant. Where is he today? My breath hitched. How had he determined I was married? I glanced at my ring, that simple gold band Harrison had placed on my finger during our bonding ceremony. He's traveling, I answered carefully. Business matters. He returns this evening. Cade nodded, though his expression remained unreadable. A powerful alpha permits his pregnant omega to attend a medical appointment alone. How interesting. His tone carried no judgment, only observation and analysis. My defensive mode activated instantly. I couldn't allow anyone to think poorly of Harrison. Harrison didn't leave me alone by choice. I insisted on managing this myself. He offered to accompany me, but I told him I was capable of handling it. Guilt tinged my voice because perhaps Harrison had been correct. Perhaps I shouldn't have attempted this alone. Harrison, Cade repeated as if carefully tasting the name. Then suddenly his entire demeanor shifted. Harrison Kane? My body completely froze. My heart began racing frantically. How did this total stranger know my husband's complete name? You know him? I whispered, suspicion and fear mixing together. Cade offered me a slow smile, but nothing about it felt warm. It was calculated, measured, almost calculating. Everyone knows Harrison Kane, he stated. The alpha who controls half this city's industrial docks. The one who eliminates competitors without showing mercy. The one who constructs business empires while keeping his personal life absolutely hidden from view. He paused, staring directly into my eyes. I simply wasn't aware he had bonded with an omega. He's concealed your existence remarkably well. My heart pounded violently. Something felt very wrong here. Cade's tone contained hidden layers, unspoken elements that made me deeply uncomfortable. This wasn't coincidence. This stranger hadn't randomly appeared at this particular clinic today. At that moment, Dr. Hale rushed through the doors, appearing panicked and thoroughly apologetic. Mr. Jace, I apologize profusely. Nurse Sheila has received immediate suspension. Please come inside without further delay. Your baby's health represents our highest priority. She was nearly begging, clearly terrified by whatever threat Cade had issued. As I began standing, Cade gently grasped my wrist. His touch created an unexpected electrical sensation against my skin. Exercise caution, he said in a soft yet firm voice. You're carrying something incredibly precious. Never permit anyone, absolutely anyone, to make you forget that both you and your baby deserve complete respect. The intensity in his eyes confused me. I looked into those eyes and realized something disturbing. This alpha wasn't merely a stranger passing through. He had some connection to Harrison. And that connection definitely didn't feel friendly. I slowly withdrew my hand and walked toward the examination room with Dr. Hale. But when I glanced back, Cade remained standing there watching me, his expression completely unreadable. Once inside the examination room with the door closed, my phone buzzed. Harrison's message read, "Flight landed ahead of schedule. Coming directly to the clinic. Missing you terribly, baby." My heart skipped a beat. Harrison was coming here, to this location, and Cade was still outside. I had absolutely no idea how dangerous their meeting was about to become. Dr. Hale conducted my examination thoroughly, apologizing repeatedly for Sheila's behavior throughout the process. Your baby is perfectly healthy, Mr. Jace, she reassured me, pointing at the ultrasound screen. Strong heartbeat, excellent growth measurements. However, I strongly recommend minimizing stress as much as possible. Your blood pressure shows slight elevation. Stress. Yes. Today had certainly provided no shortage of that. I nodded and thanked her, though my mind was already elsewhere. Harrison was coming. Cade was outside, and I had no idea how to handle their potential confrontation. Take good care of yourself, Dr. Hale said, helping me stand. And again, please accept my sincere apologies for what occurred. I managed a smile, forced but polite, and exited the examination room. In the waiting area, Sheila was nowhere to be seen, obviously having been suspended. But Cade remained there, standing in the corner, typing something on his phone. As if sensing my presence, he lowered his phone and looked toward me. "Everything satisfactory with the baby?" "Yes," I replied shortly, maintaining distance between us. "Thank you again for your intervention. But I should leave now." Cade nodded. "Certainly. But Jace," he hesitated, as if wanting to say something but holding back. "If you ever require anything, and I mean absolutely anything, here's my contact information." He extended a sleek black business card. I paused before accepting it. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know who I am." Cade's jaw tightened visibly. "Let's simply say I understand what it feels like to lose someone you should have protected, and I refuse to let that happen to anyone else." His words carried substantial weight: grief, regret, profound pain. I took the card hesitantly and slipped it into my pocket. "I'm sorry for whatever loss you experienced." Cade gave a bitter smile. "So am I." At that exact moment, the clinic's entrance doors burst open, not violently but with undeniable commanding presence. And there stood Harrison. My breath stopped completely. Harrison Kane, 6'3", broad shoulders, sharp business suit, and those intense gray eyes that immediately locked onto me. His entire presence dominated the room. But when his gaze shifted from me to Cade, his entire body went rigid. The temperature in the room plummeted. Harrison stood motionless at the entrance, his gray eyes moving between Cade and me with an expression I'd rarely seen on his face, a mixture of protective fury and barely contained rage. His fists clenched at his sides, and I could see the muscles in his jaw working as he processed the scene before him. "Jace." Harrison's voice emerged low and controlled, but I detected the underlying anger simmering beneath the surface. "Come here. Now." My body responded automatically to his alpha command, my omega instincts overriding my conscious thoughts. I moved toward him, but as I reached his side, Harrison immediately positioned me behind him, protective but also undeniably possessive. "Harrison, wait," I attempted to explain. "Not now," Harrison said softly, though his eyes never left Cade for even a moment. Cade offered a slow smile, nothing friendly about it. Definitely challenging. "Harrison Kane, it's been quite some time." "Mercer." Harrison's voice turned to ice. "What are you doing at this particular clinic?" "Accomplishing what you should have been doing," Cade replied calmly. "Protecting your omega from mistreatment." Harrison's fist clenched tighter. I could feel his body tensing behind me, coiled like a spring ready to release. "Stay away from my husband." "Husband?" Cade's eyebrow raised, genuine surprise flashing across his features. "So you've finally bonded with someone. How remarkably unexpected. Especially considering the entire business community believes Harrison Kane married his corporate empire in of an actual person. My personal life is absolutely none of your concern." Harrison growled. "It becomes my concern when your omega faces public humiliation while you're conveniently absent." Cade shot back. "I was present, Harrison. I witnessed what happened here today. Where exactly were you?" I watched as Harrison's jaw tightened, a mixture of guilt and fury playing across his features. He knew Cade was right, and he couldn't digest that painful truth. "We're leaving," Harrison stated flatly, gripping my hand firmly. "Let's go, Jace." "Harrison, please wait." I tried to protest. Now, his alpha command carried such power that my body began responding automatically. But I managed one final glance toward Cade. His expression remained unreadable, hovering somewhere between satisfaction and sadness. Harrison practically dragged me from the clinic, his grip on my hand tight but not quite painful. When we reached his black Mercedes in the parking lot, he finally released me and positioned himself directly in front of me. "What," Harrison said in a slow, deliberate voice, "was Cade Mercer doing with my husband?" "He helped me," I stated simply. "A nurse humiliated me and Cade intervened." "Cady," Harrison's voice rose sharply, the first time he'd ever raised his voice to me. "You're calling him by his first name?" Tears filled my eyes. "Harrison, he was just—" "Jace, listen very carefully," Harrison interrupted, taking my face in his hands and forcing me to meet his gaze. "Cade Mercer is not a good person. He's my biggest business rival. He spent years attempting to destroy everything I've built. And if he approached you today, it wasn't from kindness. It was strategic calculation. But he mentioned losing his omega. I defended. He told me. Harrison's expression darkened dramatically. He told you about Elias. My confusion must have been obvious. He mentioned losing someone important. He didn't provide details. Harrison closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. When he reopened them, I saw pain etched deeply there. Jace, there's substantial history between Cade and me that you don't know about. I was planning to tell you eventually, but not like this. He looked at me, suddenly vulnerable. But if he's already approaching you directly, then we need to talk. Properly, at home. Harrison, you're frightening me, I whispered. I'm trying to protect you, he said, pulling me into a tight embrace. You and our baby, that's all that matters to me. But as he held me close, I could see over his shoulder. Cade stood at the clinic entrance, watching us. His expression contained something complicated. Not anger, not jealousy exactly, regret, and determination, as if he decided that this particular fight was far from finished. We got into the car and Harrison started driving in complete silence. His jaw remained tight, his knuckles white from gripping the steering wheel with excessive force. I understood then that whatever history existed between Harrison and Cade was dark, complicated, and somehow I'd become caught in the middle of it. Harrison, I said softly. Please talk to me. He gave me a brief side glance before focusing back on the road. When we arrive home, he finally said, I'll explain everything. About Cade. About Elias. About why. His voice cracked slightly. Why this situation is so dangerous. My heart sank. Dangerous? How? The remainder of the drive passed in silence. But Cade's business card in my pocket felt like it was burning a hole through the fabric. A constant reminder that secrets were about to be revealed. And I wasn't sure I was ready to hear them. We arrived at our penthouse. The luxurious space in the city center, with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the skyline. Normally, I found this place comforting and safe, but today the atmosphere felt heavy with unspoken tensions. Harrison removed his coat and loosened his tie, then began pacing the living room, exactly what he did when facing difficult decisions. Sit down, Jace, he said softly. I settled onto the couch, supporting my belly. The baby was moving, perhaps sensing my anxiety. I placed my hand on my stomach, drawing reassuring circles. Harrison sat in the chair facing me, not beside me but directly across. Professional distance. This was going to be that kind of conversation. Cade Mercer and I, Harrison began. We were friends once, college roommates, actually. Best friends who planned to conquer the business world together. But then everything changed. I listened silently, allowing him to continue at his own pace. There was a major deal, Harrison continued. A massive investment opportunity that both of us wanted desperately, but only one of us could secure. And I chose ambition over friendship. I negotiated behind his back, secured the investment, and completely cut him out of the deal. Guilt was clear in his voice. He never forgave me for that betrayal. And honestly, I've never forgiven myself either. Harrison, I whispered. That happened 10 years ago. Harrison went on. Since then, we've been bitter rivals. He's attempted to sabotage my business deals, and I've blocked his expansion efforts. It became ugly, personal, an actual war between us. He briefly covered his face with his hands, but then Elias entered the picture. Hearing that name made me more alert. Elias was Cade's omega? Harrison nodded slowly. Elias Reed. Beautiful, kind, gentle. He was Cade's entire world. They bonded 7 years ago, and for a brief period I witnessed Cade changing, becoming father, happier. I thought perhaps our rivalry might finally end, but it didn't. I asked softly. No, Harrison's voice turned bitter. Because I was a fool. An absolute idiot. He looked directly into my eyes. 3 years ago, Elias became pregnant. High-risk pregnancy with complications developing during the final trimester. A rare condition called omega hemolytic crisis. Extremely rare, extremely deadly. He needed a specific experimental antiserum that wasn't commercially available. My breathing slowed, sensing where the story was headed. I had access to that serum, Harrison admitted, his voice breaking. My pharmaceutical division was one of only 3 companies worldwide testing it. Cade came to me not as a rival but as a bare alpha begging to save his omega and unborn child. Harrison's entire body shook, and I refused him. What? My voice filled with horror. I thought it was manipulation. Harrison's tears began falling. I thought he was trying to trick me, steal the formula, gain access to my research. Our relationship had become so toxic that I interpreted his botcherness strategy. He slammed his fist on the table. By the time I realized he was telling the truth, by the time my team verified the diagnosis and I rushed the serum to the hospital, it was too late. Elias was gone. The baby too. My heart shattered into pieces. Cade was holding Elias's lifeless body. Harrison whispered, staring at nothing. Screaming. Completely shattered. And all of it happened because of my decision. If I had just trusted him, if I had set aside my ego for even one moment, Elias and their child would still be alive today. I understood then. This guilt, this unbearable pain, it haunted Harrison every single day. And now with Cade suddenly appearing in my life, all those buried emotions were resurfacing. That's why Cade approached you today, Harrison said, looking directly into my eyes. Not because he's genuinely kind or concerned. He wants revenge. Jace, you represent my greatest vulnerability. He hints how deeply I love you, how much our baby means to me. And he intends to exploit that weakness to inflict maximum pain as payback for what I took from him. No, I said firmly, shaking my head. Harrison, I looked into his eyes. What I saw wasn't vengeance. It was his own guilt consuming him. Harrison appeared confused. What are you talking about? Cade didn't help me to hurt you. I explained carefully. He intervened because seeing me reminded him of Elias. He couldn't save his own Omega, so now he's attempting redemption by protecting others like me. This isn't about revenge. It's about his desperate need for atonement. Harrison remained silent, processing everything I'd said. He's not your enemy anymore, Harrison, I said softly. He's simply broken, just like you are. Harrison finally moved, coming to sit beside me on the couch. He took my hand gently. Jace, I need you to make me a promise. Stay completely away from Cade, please. I cannot lose you the way he lost Elias. I wouldn't survive that. Harrison, promise me. My throat tightened painfully. I loved Harrison with everything in me. I understood his pain intimately, but Cade's suffering was equally real, equally valid. I promise, I finally whispered. But Harrison, perhaps the time has come for you to forgive yourself. And maybe you should actually talk to Cade, really communicate. This war between you both is destroying you from the inside. Harrison pulled me into a tight embrace, his face buried against my neck. I love you beyond measure, Jace. You and our baby are my entire universe. I love you too, I responded. But even as he held me close, Cade's business card remained in my pocket, a tangible reminder, and something deep in my instincts whispered that this story was far from finished. That night, after Harrison had fallen asleep from sheer exhaustion and emotional depletion, I stood on the balcony watching the city lights shimmer below. My phone rested in my hand. I withdrew Cade's card and stared at the number printed there. I didn't want to keep secrets from Harrison. I didn't want to cause him any additional pain. But perhaps just one brief message simply thanking Cade properly wouldn't constitute a betrayal. I typed carefully, "Thank you for your intervention today. I've learned the complete truth now. I'm genuinely sorry for your tragic loss, Jace." My finger hovered over the send button, trembling slightly. Then I heard Harrison's sleepy voice drift from the bedroom. "Jace? Baby, where did you go?" I immediately lowered my phone, deleted the unsent message, and went back inside. But I kept the card tucked safely away, just in case circumstances changed. The following days passed with an illusion of normalcy, relatively speaking. Harrison refused to let me leave the penthouse, which honestly felt suffocating, though I understood his heightened concern. He'd shifted into complete overprotective mode following the Cade incident. His security team now tracked my every movement, making me feel like a prisoner in my own home. "Harrison, I desperately need fresh air," I complained on the 4th day of confinement. "I'm genuinely losing my mind trapped inside." "Then we'll visit the rooftop garden," Harrison suggested, barely glancing up from his laptop. "It's private, completely secure, and you can breathe fresh air there." "That's not remotely the same thing," I said, frustration bleeding into my voice. "I want a normal walk outside, in an actual park, where regular people go about their lives." Harrison's expression hardened immediately. "Jace, we've already discussed this thoroughly. It's not safe right now. Not safe from what exactly? My patience finally snapped completely. Harrison, Cade isn't a threat to us. He actively helped me. This has nothing to do with Cade. Harrison stood abruptly, showing his own mounting frustration. Jace, you're the bonded omega of one of this city's most powerful alphas. That automatically makes you a target for business competitors, for criminals, for anyone who wants to strike at me through you. So I'm supposed to live as a prisoner indefinitely. Tears filled my eyes. For how long, Harrison? Harrison's expression softened considerably. He came closer and cupped my face gently. Just until after our baby arrives safely. Please, Jace. After that, I swear we'll travel anywhere you desire. That's my promise. I looked into his eyes and saw genuine terror there. He was truly frightened that something terrible might happen to me. All right. I finally relented. But Harrison, we absolutely need to find some middle ground here. I can't survive living this way indefinitely. I understand, he said, kissing my forehead tenderly. I'm sorry. I'm just trying. His phone rang suddenly. Unknown number. Harrison's expression immediately became alert. He answered on speaker. Kane speaking, he said formally. Harrison. Cade's voice came through the line and my heart skipped several beats. We need to have an urgent conversation. Harrison's jaw clenched visibly. I have absolutely nothing to say to you. This isn't about our personal history, Cade quickly clarified. This concerns Jace directly. Hearing my name, both men looked toward me. Harrison protective and tense, me confused and worried. What about my husband? Harrison's voice turned dangerously cold. There's a credible threat developing, Cade said, his tone completely serious. I received intelligence approximately an hour ago through my private security network. Someone is actively planning something that targets Jace specifically. I don't yet know the identity, but the chatter is serious enough that I felt morally obligated to warn you immediately. Harrison's face went pale. What kind of threat are we talking about? Kidnapping at minimum. Possibly worse. Cade paused meaningfully. Harrison, I'm fully aware you despise me. I know you don't trust me even slightly. But I'm not fabricating this information. Verify it through your own intelligence sources. The threat is absolutely real. Harrison immediately grabbed his second phone, barking orders at his security head to verify everything Cade had reported. My heart pounded violently. Kidnapping? Who would possibly want to kidnap me? Why are you telling me this? Harrison asked Cade, suspicion still thick in his voice. Because, Cade's voice softened noticeably, I failed to save Elias when it mattered most. But perhaps I can prevent another Omega from suffering unnecessarily. Consider this my penance. Harrison remained silent for several long moments. Then reluctantly, thank you for the warning. Don't thank me yet, Cade said quietly. Just keep him safe, Harrison. Whatever terrible history exists between us, Jace doesn't deserve to become collateral damage. The call ended abruptly. Harrison immediately turned to me, gripping my shoulders firmly. Pack one bag. Essential items only. We're leaving in exactly 10 minutes. What? Where are we going? Panic flooded through me. Safe house outside the city. Completely secure location. Harrison was already moving, pulling out a duffel bag. Jace, I need you to trust me completely right now. This is deadly serious. I nodded, fear overwhelming everything else. Harrison never overreacted to anything. If he was taking this threat this seriously, then the danger was undoubtedly real. Within 15 minutes we were packed and ready. Harrison's personal security team, 4 heavily armed alphas, surrounded us as we descended to the lobby. The SUV was already waiting, engine running. But when we reached the lobby level, the lights suddenly cut out completely. Total darkness. Stay close. Harrison immediately pulled me behind him protectively. Gunshots exploded. Glass shattered everywhere. People screamed in terror. My protective instincts kicked in instantly. Protect the baby at all costs. I crouched down, both hands covering my belly defensively. Jace! Harrison's voice came from somewhere in the chaos. Then suddenly someone grabbed me with powerful hands. An alpha scent, but definitely not Harrison's familiar scent. No! I screamed with everything I had. But he was dragging me forcefully toward the back exit. I struggled desperately, kicking, screaming. Harrison's name repeatedly. Then suddenly another figure appeared, attacking my captor violently. The lights flickered back on, and I saw Cade fighting the alpha who'd tried to abduct me. Go, Cade yelled at Harrison's security team while grappling with my attacker. Get him out of here immediately. Harrison appeared suddenly, blood splattered across his suit, though hopefully not his own blood. He scooped me up despite my pregnant weight, carrying me swiftly toward the waiting SUV. Cade? I started to say. I've got this situation handled. Cade yelled back, still fighting. Just go now. Harrison didn't waste time arguing. He practically threw me into the SUV, carefully despite the urgency, and the driver immediately accelerated hard. I looked back through the rear window. Cade had successfully subdued the attacker. Police sirens were rapidly approaching, but his eyes met mine briefly through the distance. And in that single moment, I knew with absolute certainty that Cade had just saved my life. And Harrison would now have to confront the uncomfortable reality that his biggest rival might have just become our unexpected protector. Who was that attacker? I asked in a shaking voice as we crossed the city limits. I don't know yet. Harrison's voice was grim and determined. But I will find out. And when I do, his expression became deadly. They'll wish they'd never been born. My hand moved instinctively to my belly. The baby was okay, moving, alive, safe. But I was absolutely terrified, because an unknown enemy had just openly attacked us. In broad daylight. Inside our own building. And if Cade hadn't been there at precisely the right moment. Harrison, I said carefully. Cade saved me today. Harrison's jaw tightened visibly. He didn't want to acknowledge it, but he couldn't deny the obvious truth either. I know, he finally whispered. I'm aware. The safe house was extremely remote. Deep in the mountains, surrounded by thick forest on all sides. Single road in, single road out. Harrison's best security team was deployed throughout the property. Arriving there was the first time in 48 hours that I could properly breathe. But my mind remained stuck on Cade. Was he all right? Had the police given him trouble? And most importantly, why had he been there at exactly the right time? Sit down, Harrison said gently, settling me onto the couch and wrapping a blanket around me. I'm making tea for you. Harrison, we need to talk about what just happened, I said. I know, he sighed heavily. But first, let me take proper care of you. He went to the kitchen while I sat there processing everything. The attack, Cade's intervention, Harrison's complicated history, Elias's tragic death. How was everything connected? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. But I recognized it immediately. Cade's number from his business card. I carefully checked that Harrison wasn't watching. Then opened the message. Are you safe? Police questioned me extensively, but I'm cleared. The attacker refuses to talk. Professional mercenary. Someone paid him extremely well. Be very careful, Jace. And tell Harrison I'm genuinely sorry. For absolutely everything. My throat tightened painfully. I quickly typed back. We're safe now. Thank you. For today. For everything. Then I immediately deleted the message thread just as Harrison returned carrying tea. Here, he said, carefully handing me the mug. Chamomile. Excellent for stress. I sipped silently for several moments. Then finally, Harrison, what happens now? Harrison sat on the couch near me, maintaining slight distance, not cold exactly, just cautious. Now we wait. My team is actively tracking who hired that mercenary. When we discover the truth, we'll nail it appropriately. Handle it how? I asked softly. However becomes necessary. Harrison's voice hardened considerably. Then he looked at me, expression softening. Jace, I need you to understand something clearly. I will burn this entire city to the ground before I allow anyone to hurt you or our baby. I know, I whispered. But Harrison, violence isn't always the correct answer. Maybe we need to think about this differently. Differently how? I took a deep breath. What if this isn't actually about you? What if this is about me personally? Harrison's eyebrows furrowed. What are you suggesting? Think about it carefully, I began explaining. You have enemies, obviously. Powerful, dangerous enemies. But attacking me directly? In broad daylight? That's desperate behavior. That's intensely personal. I paused significantly. What if someone from my past is responsible? Your past? Harrison looked genuinely confused. Jace, you told me you had no enemies. Your family disowned you, but they certainly wouldn't. Not family. I interrupted quickly. My ex-boyfriend. Harrison's entire body went completely rigid. Your ex? Jace, you specifically told me that relationship ended years ago. Long before us, it did end. I quickly clarified. But Harrison, he was obsessively controlling. When I finally left him, He made serious threats. Said I belonged to him permanently. That no other alpha could ever have me. My voice became shaky. I thought he'd moved on completely. It's been 4 years, but what if he recently discovered the truth? What if he found out you're bonded and pregnant? Harrison finished, his voice dropping dangerously low. Jace, why didn't you tell me about this before now? Because I genuinely thought it was finished. Tears streamed down my face. I believed it was ancient history. I didn't want to worry you about something that might be nothing at all. Harrison stood abruptly, pacing. I need his name immediately. Damien, I whispered. Damien Cross. Harrison immediately pulled out his phone, calling his security head. Run a complete and thorough background check on Damien Cross. Everything: employment history, current location, financial records, communications. I want comprehensive results in 1 hour. He ended the call and came to kneel directly in front of me. Jace, look at me carefully. This is absolutely not your fault. None of this is your fault. Understood? I nodded, tears continuing to fall. We'll handle this situation, Harrison promised firmly. Together. 1 hour later, Harrison's security head called back. He answered on speaker. Sir, we located him. Damien Cross. He's been actively tracking Mr. Jace for several months. Financial records show multiple substantial payments to the mercenary who attacked today. He's dangerously obsessed, sir. And there's more. What else? Harrison demanded. He's allied with someone powerful. Someone with significant resources. We're still tracking the identity, but the money trail strongly suggests corporate backing. Someone with serious financial muscle. Harrison and I looked at each other. Corporate backing? Who would ally with an obsessed ex-boyfriend to hurt me? Suddenly my phone rang. Cade calling. I looked at Harrison questioningly. He reluctantly nodded permission. I answered on speaker. Jace, I know who hired the mercenary. Cade's voice was urgent. It's not just your ex-boyfriend. There's someone else involved. Someone connected to both Harrison and me. Who? Harrison demanded. Marcus Steele. Our old business partner. The one we both betrayed 10 years ago. Cade revealed. He's been planning revenge on both of us simultaneously, and he's using Jace's ex as a pawn. Promised him money and resources to get to Jace, which damages Harrison emotionally. 2 birds, 1 stone. Harrison's face went completely white. Marcus is behind this? He's been quiet for years, building power systematically, Cade continued. And now he's making his move. Harrison, I'm sending you coordinates immediately. Safe neutral location. Bring Jace. We need to collaborate on this. Otherwise we all lose everything. Harrison looked torn. Trust his rival, or risk everything alone? Harrison, I said softly. He saved my life today. Maybe it's finally time to trust him. Harrison closed his eyes, internal war visible across his features. Then finally, send the coordinates. 3 hours later we arrived at a neutral location, an abandoned warehouse that Cade's team had secured. Harrison, myself, and Cade sat around a table together. Security teams waited outside, giving us privacy. The tension was incredibly thick, but there was also something else present. Mutual understanding born from shared danger. Marcus wants revenge on both of us, Cade explained, spreading photos and documents across the table. He's been systematically destroying our smaller business operations for months, but his real target is emotional destruction. Harrison, he wants to take from you what you value most. Harrison's hand automatically gripped mine tightly. And regarding me, Cade continued, his voice heavy with emotion. He wants me to watch another Omega suffer unnecessarily, to relive Elias's death all over again. He looked directly at me. Jace, you're caught in the middle of a war between 3 alphas. And I'm genuinely sorry for that. It's not your fault, I said quietly. It is, Cade insisted. If Harrison and I had set aside our egos years ago, Marcus would never have found this opening to exploit. Harrison remained silent, then spoke. How do we stop him? Together, Cade said simply. He's expecting us to fight each other endlessly. That's his entire strategy, keep us divided and distracted. But if we unite our resources, he loses, Harrison finished. Cade nodded firmly. Exactly. But Harrison, that requires you to trust me. And I know, his voice cracked slightly. I know I don't deserve your trust. Not after everything with Elias. Harrison stared at him for a long, heavy moment. Then, Elias's death wasn't your fault. It was mine entirely. I should have given you that serum without any questions. I let my pride and ego kill an innocent Omega and their child. Harrison's voice broke. I'm the one who doesn't deserve forgiveness. Cade's eyes filled with tears. We both failed him, Harrison. Both of us. Silence fell heavy and painful. Then I spoke up. Elias would want you both to stop destroying yourselves. To stop destroying each other. He would want you to protect other Omegas. Like me. Like our baby. Both alphas looked toward me. So let's do exactly that, I continued. Let's stop Marcus together. And then maybe you both can finally begin healing. Harrison and Cade looked at each other. Years of rivalry. Pain. Guilt. But also shared history and shared loss. Truce? Harrison extended his hand across the table. Cade stared at it for several seconds. Then slowly, firmly, he shook it. Truce. The next 72 hours were intensely focused. Harrison and Cade worked together, combining their resources, intelligence networks, and security forces. I monitored everything from a safe location, despite wanting to help more actively. Harrison had made me promise not to take any risks. Finally, the confrontation came. Marcus Steele, once their partner, now their enemy, was cornered. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Police became involved. Damian Cross was arrested as an accomplice. When everything was finished, when the threat was finally neutralized, Harrison brought me home. Our real home, not the safe house. Our penthouse. It's over, he said, holding me close. Finally over. Thank God, I whispered. But the next morning our doorbell rang. Harrison answered and Cade stood there. I'm leaving, Cade announced without preamble. Leaving the city. Leaving the business world. Everything. I'm going somewhere quiet to heal properly. To remember Elias the way he deserves. He hit at me. Jace, thank you for reminding me what's truly important. And Harrison, he turned to his former friend. I forgive you completely. I hope someday you can forgive yourself. Harrison nodded, tears visible in his eyes. Take care of yourself, Mercer. You too, Kane. And then Cade left. Not as an enemy, but as someone who'd finally found peace. 2 months later, I lay in a hospital bed, exhausted but radiantly happy. Harrison stood beside me, tears streaming down his face as he held our newborn daughter. She's absolutely perfect, he whispered. Completely perfect. What should we name her? I asked. Harrison thought for a moment. Grace. Grace Eliana Kane. Eliana? I asked softly, recognizing the reference immediately. After Elias. Harrison confirmed. So he's properly remembered. Honored the way he deserves. My heart swelled with overwhelming love. It's absolutely perfect. As Harrison held our daughter and I watched that beautiful scene, I realized something profound. Sometimes the most unexpected allies emerge from the darkest places. Sometimes forgiveness proves stronger than revenge. And sometimes, love truly does win, even when war seems inevitable. I looked at our baby girl, Grace Eliana, and saw not just our future but also a tribute to a past that needed healing. Elias would never be forgotten. His memory would live on through our daughter's name, through the friendship that had been restored between two broken alphas. Harrison sat beside me on the hospital bed, carefully placing our daughter in my arms. I spent so many years consumed by guilt, he said quietly, believing I could never make amends for what I'd done. But you showed me that healing is possible. That forgiveness isn't just about others forgiving us, it's about forgiving ourselves. Elias would be proud, I said, looking down at Grace's tiny, perfect face. Of both of you, for choosing peace over endless war. Harrison kissed my forehead tenderly. We're going to give her everything. Safety. Love. A world where alphas and omegas aren't defined by power dynamics, but by mutual respect. That sounds beautiful, I whispered. Grace opened her eyes, then bright and curious, already taking in her new world. And in that moment, I understood that sometimes the greatest victories aren't won through strength or dominance. They're won through compassion, understanding, and the courage to let go of hatred. Our journey had been painful, dangerous, filled with secrets and threats and ancient grudges, but we'd survived. Together. And now, holding our daughter between us, Harrison and I had everything we'd ever needed. Love. Family, peace, and the memory of an Omega named Elias, whose tragedy had ultimately brought unexpected redemption.